Hi everybody, and welcome to this live podcast and broadcast on the CIH West Midlands board pages. I'm Catherine Hinton from Greatest Asset, and one of the things that I do at the moment is work with Aspire Housing, and I'm here with some colleagues from Aspire Housing to talk about one of their initiatives that they've recently set up called a CIH Club. I've got Trish, Andre and Jordan here with me, and I'm going to ask everybody to introduce themselves and a little bit of a potted history of their careers before we get into the topic of setting up a CIH Club. So Trish, you are the instigator of today's topic, so I'd like you to introduce yourself first, please.
So hi there everyone, I'm Trish Harrington, and as Catherine said, I work at Aspire Housing. I've got a bit of a dual role at Aspire, which is really interesting. I'm the older person strategy lead, and I'm also the future workspace engagement manager, so really interesting roles. And I've been at Aspire now for 5 years. I've worked in housing pretty much all of my career, but I actually started in domiciliary care and care homes and supporting customers on the front line to live independently. So that's where my career started, and then I moved into housing as a scheme manager and worked in older person services right the way through. I'm now working on a really interesting project around future workspaces, and I also sit on the board for the West Midlands, and I chair our Realise Ambassadorial Group, which is our Realise charity at Aspire.
Fabulous, thanks Trish. Andre, over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andre Shakovsky. I'm the Executive Director of Customer Experience at Aspire. Like Trish, well, longer than Trish, I've had an even longer career in housing. I've probably been working in housing now for almost 30 years. When I started as a receptionist for a housing association many moons ago, when everything was black and white and sepia. And I've been a passionate member of the Chartered Institute of Housing for probably about 25 years now.
Fantastic, thanks Andre. And Jordan.
Hi, I'm Jordan Timms. I'm locality manager at Aspire Housing. I worked for Aspire for about 12 months, but I've been in social housing for about 17 years. Been a member of CIH for about 15 of those, and I'm chair of the CIH board Northwest, and I have been in post since summer last year.
Fantastic, thanks Jordan. So four passionate members of the CIH here, and I'd like to turn to you first of all, Andre, because I understand from Trish that you set up the first CIH club that we're aware of. How did that go? How did that start? What inspired you?
Okay, so yeah, we set up CIH Club at Aspire probably about a year ago. But actually, previous to that, I've set up CIH clubs in each of the housing organisations I've worked for. So this is probably club number 3 for me. And the real reasons around doing this are there's a number of things that come together here. It was one, just about getting members within an organisation together. Who are, and I knew my dog would start barking because Trish would know this, he would be right on cue. So it's about getting, Dexter, go away. It's about getting members of the CIH together where we can talk about issues that are affecting us within the housing sector. Secondly, it's about making that really important link between members and the CIH, because as somebody who's been in the CIH a long time, the CIH does an awful lot of amazingly brilliant things, but I think your average member probably feels a little bit disconnected from them. So getting individuals together, they can hear about that. It also has the benefit of bringing members together within an organisation from different teams, directorates, and CIH Club is a real mixture of people within the organisation. So it's another great way of just colleagues keeping in touch. And lastly, it's about supporting our student colleagues. There's so many young people coming through in terms of just starting on their studying journey, and those of us who are a little bit more long in the tooth and more experienced CIH members through CIH Club get to offer them support and guidance on their CIH journey. So it's sort of ticking a number of boxes from me. That was the real reasons why we set that club up at Aspire.
Fantastic, thanks, Andre. And I think you're absolutely right. I mean, when I think about when I first started in housing and my first sort of CIH conference or webinar or seminar or just being part of the Chartered Institute of Housing felt like such an important milestone, and felt like being part of a sort of an exclusive club, really. So Trish, you've taken on the baton of organising this for Aspire. So what are some of the sort of the practicalities if someone's listening and they wanted to set up a CIH club? How would they go about it?
Well, I think the first thing is to find out who has CIH membership. I think one of the things for us was there's lots of CIH members in the business, but actually who's got that membership? So we actually linked in with CIH and our regional member, Jill Alcott, who helped us kind of map that out. And we also, put a call out on our social media pages for our colleagues and said, if you're in the CIH, come and chat to us. We'd really like to set up this club. And I think we've now got around 35 colleagues in the business. So, we've got a really, really big CIH base. And we've got lots of people coming through our training arm of the company, PM training. And those colleagues now are benefiting from the club by coming over, as Andre said, and learning from us, but also sharing their projects. I think, as well as finding out who your members are, it's kind of finding out from them what they want to know, and there was real basic things we learned, like people not fully understanding their membership, not knowing what was on the website and how they could access things. And we've also looked at involving our regional boards in this. So we kind of do this view from the region. So Jordan will often talk about, what's going on in the Northwest, and we'll talk about what's going on the West Midlands board and how we can join that, and also give people opportunity to kind of come and observe these boards. Now we've got the opportunity to use Teams. It means that, more people can come along and view and kind of start to see how they might want to progress and become board members or member champions moving forward. So they're kind of some of the top tips, really. But also not just focusing on people that are members, but people who might be interested in becoming a member, and how we can kind of unpeel what membership means to them, and almost encouraging them and navigating them through how they can sign up for membership.
Excellent. So again, keeping the communication going, building that atmosphere of groups of interested people coming together. Jordan, when you're giving one of your sort of views from the region, what sort of topics are people interested about? What do people want to hear?
Thanks, Catherine. Well, I think one of the benefits at the minute, as Trish said, is because we're using Teams and because we can get more people involved in meetings, from our regional board meetings, we're getting more of a wide-ranging view of what people want to look at, what people want to talk about. So what we're doing in the boards at the minute is looking at different webinars that we can offer to a range of members within our regions and across the nation, really. And we're doing a lot of work with the individual boards to make sure that we support each other, so that we don't actually all concentrate webinars and briefings on the same subject. What's important, I think, for Aspire colleagues is just to get that feeling what is discussed on the board, and I think that there's one of my thoughts before I joined the board was that it was some kind of mythical group where everything was secretive. and we're really open in discussing whatever topics are out there. So some of the things that we're talking about at the minute are compassion fatigue, which is a subject that a lot of frontline workers are suffering at the minute, because obviously we're going through a pandemic. Mental health is high for housing colleagues, and then when you've got to support customers as well who are going through bad times, it's just having that focus. Other things we're thinking about are workspaces. So as Trish said about future workspaces, but what housing looks like in the future in this work, as people start to work from home. So it's anything and everything really, Catherine, really, and we're not fixed, and as things move, the housing world moves. Recently also the white paper was launched by the government, which was brought a lot of discussion points, and I think both ourselves at Aspire and the CIH are just still trying to unpick what that looks like going forward.
Brilliant, thank you, Jordan. So real mix of what's going on, what the future might hold, dealing with some of the issues that individuals have as well as the organisations. Andre, from an organisational sort of a strategic level, how can sort of bringing people together support the organisation's goals?
Okay, I think CIH Club, it's another one of the things that we do really well at Aspire. It's just getting groups to colleagues together at all different levels across all different departments and spending some quality time with each other. So this isn't your team meeting and your department meeting. This is really cross-cutting across the organisation, talking about the things that we're dealing with on the day-to-day basis and the challenges we face in the housing sector these days, but also making that really important link back to CIH and what CIH is there for, what being a professional member of the CIH means, and how that can really add benefit not just to you but also to your career and therefore ultimately to your organisation. So it's making that link all the way through to people. So for people like me who've been with the CIH for 25 years can talk about it, and new student members who are just starting off on their journey get a real understanding of the fact that CIH qualification isn't just something to go on your CV, although that is incredibly useful. It's also something that's going to be really useful for you in your career, no matter which role or where you may end up in the future.
I think that's a great example, actually, just that space for creative discussion or just talking about things that are not what's immediately in front of you. And so when we look at the last year, we've been doing a lot of firefighting, and Trish, certainly the departments you've been involved in are really hands-on, out there, dealing with lots and lots of issues. Do you think that we've lost a bit of time where we could get together and just talk about these bigger issues as the workplace has changed?
I think we've all coped with it in different ways, and I think the use of technology has been such a massive thing to us within the business, really, how we've been able to embrace that, how we've been able to use Teams. And I think actually it's about us as professionals, using our calendars to book that time in, the time that we need to have that headspace, the time we need to think. And I think Andre's absolutely right. CIH Club gives people that time. We have an agenda, as I said previously, but it's very much dictated around what the colleagues want and what they want to talk about. And there might be things that we haven't even, thought about. Or, recently we've really looked at mental health, and we had CIH President Eileen Evans come along and give a presentation on that. And that was something through a conversation in the CIH Club where a member said, I'm struggling at the moment, and I'd really kind of value, hearing other people's experiences and what they've been through. So whilst we haven't been able to collaborate or think together in a room, actually technology's allowed us to still have this and still have those conversations.
Fantastic. So part of sort of opening up those creative time in your diary. And I think you mentioned as well, Trish, the link with the regional representative at CIH. Could you just talk a little bit more about how they've supported you, and in particular the CIH Club, and what other organisations might be able to gain?
Well, I think, you know, all of us, Jordan and Andre, we can all sort of input into what Jill does to support us. She's been, you know, amazing in so many different ways, whether that's been helping us, you know, to work through our membership, helping us to think about how the CIH Club could grow, and what kind of focus we might want to bring, and some themes into the CIH Club. She's also helped us kind of bring some of our knowledge to the forefront. You know, a lot of us do some amazing work in our organisations right across housing, but do we talk about it enough, you know? And I think what Jill's done has really encouraged us to shout out, whether that's through National Careers Week, us writing blogs, or getting people within the business to write blogs around things, to really encourage people to get involved. And I think some of the smaller kind of project groups that Jill's involved in at the moment, looking at careers within housing, or with us with the CIH Club, has really helped create that link with CIH, which Andre's talked about, and also how we influence things and decisions. Because, you know, a lot of the time, you know, we're working, and, you know, we're in the day job, and we don't always have that time to have that conversation. But Jill will often come along to our CIH Club and just listen to what colleagues are saying, you know, what's working for them, what isn't, what help do they need. And then she's able to take that back and talk to her colleagues at CIH. And I know one of the things that we mentioned, I've recently studied myself my CIH Level 4 qualification, and during that I was hoping to get a mentor, but unfortunately they didn't offer mentoring to students, and actually that's one of the most critical times where you probably need a mentor. And I raised that with Jill, and subsequently now the mentoring's been opened up, so people that are training and doing the qualification can now access that. So I think that's one of the best things, is that just be honest, talk, and that, you know, Jill's there to listen, and she'll do what she can. I don't know, Andre, if you want to add anything from your experience.
Yeah.
Yep. Are you still with us?
Yes, I am. Not too sure what happened there. But I could hear you talking about mentoring. Is it still recording? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I was just saying, Catherine, about the mentoring, and how that's been, you know, really important to our colleagues that are studying their CIH qualification, how that's now been opened up to students where previously it wasn't.
Fantastic. And I think it's really interesting around the mentoring. That's really important, but it doesn't need to be person. And through the CIH Club, you can pick maybe a mentor that's going to help with a particular assignment or a particular piece of work, then move on to another mentor or another piece of work if you're in that student position. Fantastic stuff. So, Jordan, from a Northwestern point of view, is there anything that you would like to add? You're on mute.
I am on mute, yeah. Similar lines to Trish, really, and obviously the support that we get in the West Midlands from Jill. We've got Laura Fordyce that supports us as regional manager in the Northwest. And I think it's that link between ourselves and the link between members and the CIH board and exec, really. in the past, as a CIH member, you've obviously paid your membership fee, and then it can be quite lonely if you don't know how to access things, if you don't know how to influence, and you almost get that channel. One of the big issues that many members have had with CIH recently is the website, and obviously we've all been able to have an input in what we like the new website to look like and what we would like to gain from it. One of them is the mentoring offer, and that to be more widely publicised. And obviously we can feedback, colleagues can feedback to ourselves, and as regional boards we can then feed back to the regional managers. And I think it's being able to have that influence as members, I think is really positive.
Fantastic, thank you. And I think that regional flavour is really important, because the issues in the different regions are quite different depending on where you're based, and having those regional experts does make a difference. That they can either, they're sharing what's going on with CIH, or vice versa, showing what organisations are doing. So to summarise, and before my internet connection fails completely, I'd like from each of you just a couple of either lessons learned or tips or information about setting up a CIH club that you'd really like to get across to anybody listening or watching. So Andre, as the instigator of CIH clubs across the UK, I'd like you to start.
Okay, so a couple of things to me. Trish has already mentioned, it sounds obvious, but it's not as easy as it sounds. Identifying who within your organisation is actually a CIH member takes a little bit of time, and you have to be quite tenacious in terms of doing so. I think it's being flexible in terms of what the group wants to talk about, because I've got some ideas about things that need to go on the agenda, but we need to remember this is a club that's really aimed at supporting our newer members or our student members in there. So getting the focus around what they might want is really important. I think making that link with CIH, whether that's through your regional board or your local coordinator, is really important as well. But I suppose being a little bit cheeky, the thing that I would also ask is, I think this is a brilliant tool that the CIH should probably use a little bit more often. Because if the CIH wants to talk to the 35 members at Aspire Housing, at the moment, what they probably do is individually send us an email, or we get an e-zine, or we'd get and that's great. And that's one method of communication. But actually, if they want to talk to us, the 35 of us are getting together on a regular basis, and they should use this as a channel to be able to directly connect with their members. So I would kind of like to think that CIH would really see this as a great model. And, if they had a CIH club in every single housing organisation throughout the country, that's a powerful network of people where they can go to talk to on a regular basis. So maybe it's an idea for something then back at the ranch at Coventry that they could kind of consider rolling out more widely.
Fantastic. And now that you say it, it seems obvious. Why isn't there one? Why hasn't it been developed previously? Trish, over to you.
Okay, so I think I've spoken about, setting up the CIH club, but thinking about kind of the tips of what you can explore within the CIH club is kind of where I'm going to come from. And I think there's two things for me. I think the first thing is that, we're all heads down, getting through the pandemic, working really hard. But actually, we kind of sometimes miss that networking, that collaboration space. So as we said earlier, the CIH Club gives you that space, but also it's around reaching out to other CIH members as well, and networking with them and finding out what's going on in their business. And, we've had situations through COVID where I've gone to other CIH members in other housing associations, said, how are you doing this? And those conversations have proven so powerful and really helped shape some of the work that we've done through COVID. And then I think the second point as well is that I've just recently done my CIH qualification, as I said earlier. And I think for me, going through the Endpoint assessment, I was one of the first people to do it, and I didn't really have anyone to kind of bounce things off of. However, now that we've got the CIH Club in motion, what we want to do is have an overarching understanding of what colleagues are working on in their projects, what those endpoint assessments are going to look like, and try and help them through that. So, you know, that gives us that opportunity, but also where colleagues are struggling to find a project maybe to work on for their endpoint assessment. There's so many things going on, a lot going on across the business. You don't have to just have a project in your area. You might actually want to look at a project within development or within assets, for instance, or housing. You know, there's a real opportunity to get learning right across the business through this. So they would be my kind of top 2 tips.
And that's it, is sort of a self-reinforcing idea that if you do something in a different department, you're going to learn more about that different department. Also doing a project that perhaps they've been desperate to do, but just not had the resources to do up until now. So fantastic. Thanks, Trish. And Jordan, what about you? What sort of tips have you got?
There's not much left for me to cover that Trish and Andre haven't mentioned, I think. I guess for me, it's a discussion that we've had recently, is supporting those students and junior colleagues and recognising that in the business we have got a lot of experience in CIH, but as Trish said, through the qualifications, and it's matching those of us that have been in housing a long time with some of those more junior colleagues or students, and being able to harness that. Quite often, as I said, if you're doing studies or you're trying to learn and you're new to the CIH, it's very difficult to find someone that you can bounce off or share that knowledge. I guess another thing, which is because we're so ingrained in as most of us are with operational issues, is having that focus on policy. You know, lots of colleagues and people are unaware of, you know, government policy has quite a big important aspect of our role, of our lives, of our customers' lives as well. And as we were talking about the white paper recently, it's just being able to take that time and discuss those issues, how it affects us, how we can influence some of our services, and just have that arena to do that, which I think in your day-to-day job you don't necessarily see the impact or the effect that, you know, government decisions can have on your day-to-day decisions.
Absolutely, and it's a really important skill, isn't it? Being able to discuss and debate things that are external, being able to make those policy decisions, the impact it's going to have to start thinking for the future. Fantastic. So if somebody wants to know more, who should they contact you, Trish?
Yeah, I'm more than happy for anyone to contact me. You can either contact me through Twitter, so my Twitter handle is Trish at Aspire, or you can send me over an email at pharrington@aspire.co.uk.
Fantastic. So if you want to know more about a CIH club, you've got Trish's contact details. We'll also add some notes to the webpage where this is hosted. So thank you all so much. Thank you for your time today to talk about the CIH club. CIH club when I was a young housing officer, just at the start of my CIH journey. I can see the absolute positives and the benefits that it offers. So thank you everybody for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.